soft-spoken and like maybe like half inaudible. I'm gonna try my best to do whispering, inaudible, and a mix of like soft-spoken with like voicing. And today I want to read a book. I've read The Hobbit, but I've never read Lord of the Rings. I've seen the movies, but I want to do a whispering video, whispering video, and I want to read. So I thought, hey, I'll just start a new book. I mean, I have another book I wanted to read, but I want to start a book from the beginning, just to like set a vibe, and like maybe if I want to read more, I could just stick to one book, and then I don't know, do like a series if I wanted to. But just thoughts. Okay, I went ahead and moved the microphone so I can put my book down right here next to the microphone. Alright, now let's just start. The Lord of the Rings, continuing the story of The Hobbit, written by J.R.R. Tolkien. 3 rings for these elven kings under the sky, 7 for the dwarf lords in their halls of stone, 9 for mortal men doomed to die, 1 for the Dark Lord on his dark throne, and the land of Mordor where the shadows lie. 1 ring to rule them all, 1 ring to find them, 1 ring to bring them all in the darkness, bind them, in the land of Mordor where the shadows lie. Shadows. Alright, damn, this is a big book. It's like 1,000 pages, but okay, but the first book is only like 200, so that's not that bad. What if I read all 200 pages right now? Okay, let's just start with book 1. And I'm not gonna read the introduction. They gave us a map. It looks like the Shire. This is a map of the Shire, I think. I see overborn marshes. I see bridge fields. I see a part of the Shire. Okay, this is a map, a part of the Shire. And it's split into north, east, south, and west. Farthing. Alright, let's start with chapter 1. A long expected party. When Mr. Bilbo Baggins of Bag End announced that he would shortly be celebrating his 111st birthday with a party of special magnificence, there was much talk and excitement in Hobbiton. Hold on, I'm trying to get comfortable. That's too low. Oh god. I think that looks straight. Okay. Bilbo was very rich and very peculiar, and had been the wonder of the Shire for 60 years. ever since his remarkable disappearance and unexpected return. The riches he had brought back from his travels had now become a local legend, and it was popularly believed, whatever the old folk might say, that the hill at Bag End was full of tunnels stuffed with treasure. And if that was not enough for fame, there was also his prolonged vigor to marvel at. Time wore on, but it seemed to have little effect on Mr. Baggins. Foreshadowing. At 90, he was much the same as at 50. At 99, they began to call him well preserved, but unchanged would have been near the mark. There were some that seemed unfair. There were some that shook their heads and thought that this was too much of a good thing. It seemed unfair that anyone should possess apparently perpetual youth as well as reputedly inexhaustible wealth. Just making sure the microphone was correct. It will be paid for, they said. It isn't natural, and trouble will come of it. But so far, trouble had not come, and as Mr. Baggins was generous with his money, most people were willing to forgive him with oddities and his good fortune. He remained on visiting terms with his relatives, except of course the Sackville Bagginses, and he had many devoted admirers among the hobbits of poor and unimportant families. But he had no close friends until some of his younger cousins began to grow up. The eldest of these, probably because they all died, anyways, the eldest of these, and Bilbo's favorite, was young Frodo Baggins. When Bilbo was 99, he adopted Frodo as his heir. Bagginses were finally dashed. Bilbo and Frodo happened to have the same birthday, September 22nd. Is that Virgo? Or Libra? Comment down below if you know what September 22nd astrological birth chart looks like. You had better come and live here, Frodo, my lad, said Bilbo one day, and then we can celebrate our birthday parties comfortably together. At that time, Frodo was still in his tweens, as the hobbits called the irresponsible 20s between childhood and coming of age at 33. 12 more years passed. Each year, the Bagginses had given very lively birthday parties at Bag End, but now it was... But now it was understood that something quite exceptional was being planned for that autumn. Bilbo was going to be 111, a rather curious number and a very respectable age for a hobbit. The old Took himself had only reached 130, and Frodo was going to be 33. An important number, the date of his coming of age. Tongues began to wag in Hobbiton and Bywater, and rumor of the coming event traveled all over the Shire. The history and character of Mr. Bilbo Baggins became once again the chief topic of conversation, and the older folk suddenly found their reminiscence and welcome demand. No one had a more attentive audience than old Ham Gamgee, commonly known as the Gaffer. He hailed forth at Ivy Bush, a small inn on the Bywater Road, and he spoke with some authority, for he had tended the garden at Bag End for 40 years, and had helped old Holman in the same job before that. Now that he was himself growing old and stiff in the joints, the job was mainly carried on by his youngest son, Sam Gamgee. Both father and son were on very friendly terms with Bilbo and Frodo. They lived on the hill itself, in number 3 Backshot Row, just below the Bag End. A very nice, well-spoken, gentle hobbit is Mr. Bilbo, as I've always said, the Gaffer declared, with perfect truth, for Bilbo was very polite to him, calling him Master Hamfast, and consulting him constantly upon the growing of vegetables and the matter of fruits Frodo that lives with him? Asked old Noakes of Bywater. Baggins is his name, but he's more than half a brandy buck, they say. It beats me why any Baggins of Hobbiton should go looking for a wife away there in Buckland, where folks are so queer. And no wonder they're queer, put in Daddy Two-Foot, the gaffer's next-door neighbor. If they live on the wrong side of the Brandywine River and right again the Old Forest, that's a dark, bad place, if half the tales be true. You're right, Dad, said the gaffer. Not that brandy bucks of Buckland live. Not that the brandy bucks of Buckland live in the Old Forest, but they're a queer breed, seemingly. They fool about with boats on that big river, and that isn't natural. Small wonder that trouble came of it, I say. But be that as it may, Mr. Frodo is as nice a young hobbit as you could wish to meet. Very much like Mr. Bilbo, and more than looks, and in more than looks. Looks. After all, his father was a Baggins. A decent, respectable hobbit was Mr. Drogo Baggins. There was never much tell of him till he was drowned. Drowned, said several voices. They had heard this and other darker rumors before, of course, but hobbits have a passion for family history, and they were ready to hear it again. Well, so they said the gaffer. You see, Mr. Drogo, he married poor Miss Primula Brandybuck. Okay, they're introducing a lot of characters, and I'm trying to keep up. Okay, you see, Mr. Drogo, he married poor Miss Primula Brandybuck. Who the fuck is Mr. Drogo? Oh, he's the one that was drowned. She was our Mr. Bilbo's first cousin on the mother's side. Her mother being the... Do y'all hear Nadia scratching herself like this? I would show you, but I don't want to move the camera. I kind of want to do an ASMR video where I just give Nadia like a pampering session, and I just like massage her like head and like brush her. I don't know. Okay, where was I? She was our Mr. Bilbo's first cousin on the mother's side, her mother being the youngest of the old Took's daughters, and Mr. Drogo was his second cousin. So Mr. Frodo is his first and second cousin. One's removed either way, as the saying is, if you follow me. And Mr. Drogo was staying at Brindy Hall with his father-in-law, Old Master Gorbatok, as he often did after his marriage, and being partial to his fiddles and old Gorbatok, keeping a mighty generous table. And he and his wife were drowned. Oh wait. And he went out boating on the Brandywine River, and he and his wife were drowned, and poor Mr. Frodo, only a child and all. I've heard they went on the water after dinner in the moonlight. Wait, what if Bilbo killed them? I've heard they went on the water after dinner in the moonlight, said old Noakes, and it was Drogo's weight that sunk the boat. Right. And I heard she pushed him in, and he pulled her in after him, said Sandyman, the Hobbiton miller. You shouldn't listen to all you hear, Sandyman, said the gaffer, who did not much like the miller. There isn't no call to go talking of pushing and pulling. Boats are quite tricky enough for those that sit still without looking further for the cause of trouble. Anyway, there was this Mr. Frodo left an orphan and stranded, as you might say, among those queer Bucklanders being brought up anyhow in Brandy Hall. A regular warren by all accounts. Old Master Gorbatok never had fewer than a couple of hundred relations nasty knock for those Sackville Bagginses. They thought they were going to get Baggin at that time when he went off and was thought to be dead. And then he comes back and orders them off, and he goes on living and never looking a day older, bless him, and suddenly he produces an heir and has all the papers made out proper. The Sackville Bagginses will never see the inside of Baggin now, or it is to be hoped not. There's a tiny bit of money tucked away up there, I hear tell, said a stranger, a visitor on business. Visitor on business from Michelle Delphine in the West Farthing. All the top of your hill is full of tunnels packed with chests of gold and silver and jewels, by what I've heard. Then you've heard more than I can speak to, answered the gaffer. I know nothing about jewels. Mr. Bilbo is free with his money, and there seems no lack of it. But I know of no tunnels making. I saw Mr. Bilbo when he came back a matter of 60 years ago, when I was a lad. I'd not long come prentice to old Holman, him be my dad's cousin, but he had me up at back end, helping him to keep folks from trampling and trespassing all over the garden while the sale was on. And in the middle of it all, Mr. Bilbo comes up the hill with a pony and some mighty big bags and a couple of chests. I don't doubt they were mostly full of treasure he had picked up in foreign parts, where there be mountains of gold, they say, but there wasn't enough to fill tunnels. But my lad Sam will know more about that. He's in and out of back end, crazy about stories of the old days he is, and he listens to all Mr. Bilbo's tales. Mr. Bilbo has learned him his letters, meaning no harm. Mark you, and I hope no harm will come of it. Elves and dragons, I says to him, cabbages and potatoes are better for me and you. Don't go getting mixed up in the business of your betters, or you'll land in trouble too big for you, I says to him. And I might say it to others, he added, with a look at the stranger and the miller. But the gaffer did not convince his audience. The legend of Bilbo's wealth was now too firmly fixed in the minds of the younger generation of hobbits. But he has likely enough been adding to what he brought up first, argued the miller, voicing common opinion. He's often away from home, and look at the outlandish folk that visit him. Dwarfs coming at night, and that old wandering conjurer Gandalf. And all, you can say what you like, Gaffer, but Baggins a queer place, and its folks are queerer. And you can say what you like about what you know more of than you do of boating, Mr. Sandyman, retorted the Gaffer, disliking the miller even more than usual. If that's being queer, then we could do with a bit more queerness in these parts. There's some not far away that wouldn't offer a pint of beer to a friend if they lived in a hole with golden walls, but they do things proper at back end. Our Sam says that everyone's going to be invited to the party, and there's going to be presents, mark you, presents for all this very month, that is. Sounds like a good ass time. The very month was September, and as fine as you could ask. A day or two later, a rumor, probably started by the knowledgeable Sam was spread about that there were going to be fireworks that, what is more, such as had not been seen in the Shire for nigh on a century, not indeed since the old Took died. Days passed and the day drew nearer. Oh, they capitalized the day, capital T, capital day, D, drew near. Probably September 22nd is the day of fireworks because it's a big event. I don't know, it's just weird. I don't know. An odd-looking wagon laden with odd-looking packages rolled into Hobbiton one evening, and toiled up the hill to back end. The startled hobbits peered out and toiled up the hill to back end. Let me just read this paragraph again. Days passed and the day grew nearer. An odd-looking wagon, laden with odd-looking packages, rolled into Hobbiton one evening, and toiled up the hill to back end. The startled hobbits peered out of lamplight doors to gape at it. It was driven by outlandish folk singing strange songs, dwarves with long beards and deep hoods. A few of them remained at back end. At the end of the second week in September, a cart came in through Bywater from the direction of Brandywine Bridge in broad daylight. An old man was driving in all alone. He wore a tall pointed blue hat, a long gray cloak, and a silver scarf. He had a long white beard and bushy eyebrows that stuck out beyond the brim of his hat. Small hobbit children ran after the cart all through Hobbiton and right up the hill, and it had a cargo of fireworks, as they rightly guessed. At Bilbo's front door, the old man began to unload. There were great bundles of fireworks of all sorts and shapes, each labeled with a large red G and the elf rune. Let me just show y'all what this is, because they have like the sigils right here. Oh, this is gonna be kind of hard, but I have a weird setup right now. I'll just draw it for you, actually. So, a large red G. And the elf rune. I'll draw the one large red G sigil right now. And the elf rune will be in blue. Oh, it might be inverted. Anyways, let's keep reading. That was Gandalf's mark, of course, and the old man was Gandalf the wizard, whose theme in the Shire was due mainly to his skill with fires, smokes, and lights. His real business was far more difficult and dangerous, but the Shire folk knew nothing about it. To them, he was just one of the attractions of the party, hence the excitement of the hobbit children. G for grand, they shouted, and the old man smiled. They knew him by sight, though he only appeared in Hobbiton occasionally and never stopped long. But neither they nor any but the oldest of their elders had seen one of his firework displays. They now belonged to a legendary past. Is that a reference to The Hobbit? It probably is. I haven't read that book in forever. Like, I read it like in high school, so like maybe like 5-6 years ago. Anyways, when the old man helped buy Bilbo and some dwarfs had finished unloading, Bilbo gave a few pennies away, but not a single squib or cracker was forthcoming, to the disappointment of the onlookers. Run away now, said Gandalf. You will get plenty when the time comes. Then he disappeared inside with Bilbo, and the door was shut. The young hobbit stared at the door in vain for a while, and then made off, feeling that the day of the party would never come. Inside back end, Bilbo and Gandalf were sitting at the open window of a small room looking out west onto the garden. The late afternoon was bright and peaceful. The flowers glowed red and golden snapdragons and sunflowers and nasturtiums trailing all over the turf walls and peeping in at the bright your garden looks, said Gandalf. Yes, said Bilbo, but I am very fond indeed of it, and of all the dear old Shire, but I think I need a holiday. You mean to go on with your plan, then? I do. I made up my mind months ago, and I haven't changed it. Very well. It is no good saying it anymore. Stick to your plan, your whole plan, mind, and I hope it will turn out for the best. Can y'all hear that? Nadia's like, she's cleaning her Gucci. Stick to your plan. I hope so. Anyway, I mean to enjoy myself on Thursday and have my little joke. Who will laugh, I wonder, said Gandalf, shaking his head. We shall see, said Bilbo. How many pages is this first chapter? Okay, we're kind of like halfway through. Kinda. Oh, it's been like 26 minutes. I wonder if my phone can like record for this long and be okay. Maybe I stop at